One of the reasons that crypto can be so daunting for newcomers is the number of scams that currently infest the space. Now, while some are pretty obvious, others are more subtle and damn near convincing. Scammers have to evolve in order to keep their business profitable, so they're adapting and have also been able to con users who may have thought they were immune to it. Are any of these scams just waiting for you around the corner? Well, that's exactly what this video will help you find out. It's the ultimate guide to crypto scams, as well as my top 5 list of those you have to watch out for. I'll also give you some top tips in order to avoid falling for scams, hacks, and other dirty tricks. So, be sure to stick around. Before I get cracking, gotta do a bit of yapping. Although I am an upstanding and strapping chap, I am not a financial advisor. Sorry folks, just never took that test. Hence, everything that I say in this video should be considered educational only. Also, if this is your first time here, welcome to my humble abode. My name is Guy, and over here at the Bureau, I cover everything crypto. Videos like guides, analysis, reviews, news, overviews, and you too can be a part of that. All you need to do is hit up that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. That way, the YouTube overlords will let you know the moment I release another video. Finally, I know that you folks are busy, so I've placed all of these handy timestamps over here. Use them to jump around to the sections that interest you most. I promise I won't be offended. Okay folks, let's dive into that murky world of crypto scams. The first and perhaps most pervasive scam I want to talk about is the Ponzi scheme. This is actually older than crypto itself and goes back to the 1920s. Fun fact, it was named after Charles Ponzi, an Italian who defrauded investors using the method that bears his namesake. The basic premise of a Ponzi scheme is really pretty simple. An operator will usually pay out existing investors with money that's been brought in from new investors, basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. The business is not making any legitimate income. It creates the illusion of income, which may convince many of those who have invested that it could be legit. This will continue for as long as there are always new investors to bring in capital. Oftentimes, these schemes will also ask the user to refer people. This is why it's sometimes referred to as a pyramid scheme. Now, although the basic MO of a Ponzi scheme is pretty straightforward, some of them can be hard to identify. Some Ponzi schemes can last for years and dupe even the most sophisticated investors. Case in point, Bernie Madoff ran one of the longest running and most deceptive Ponzi schemes ever. His victims were not your average retail investor, but sophisticated hedge funds, mutual funds, and high net worth individuals. Everyone thought the same thing. Bernie's in high demand. There are waiting lists to invest with him. Look at all those other rich folks who trust Bernie. The emperor really does have no clothes. Anyways, there have been a lot of such schemes in the crypto space. This is because they are generally easier to set up and exit scam than with a fiat Ponzi scheme. They also take on a whole host of different guises or fake business operations that allow them to justify those returns. They often try and choose seemingly believable methods in order not to raise too many questions. I can't go through all of the examples now, but here are perhaps the most well-known front business operations for a Ponzi scheme. Crypto lending platforms. With these, you'll supply capital to some platform and they will pay you out a regular stream of interest. The MO is that there are borrowers on the other side of that equation who are paying that interest. On the face of this, it seems like a legitimate business model. However, the devil is sometimes in the detail. If this is a centralized lending service with annualized interest rates that seem completely out of whack, it should set your alarm bells off. For example, in the BitConnect heyday, they were paying out monthly interest that exceeded 40%. This seemed ridiculous and unsustainable, particularly for a project as opaque as it was. Of course, we all know what happened to BitConnect. Another typical crypto Ponzi MO is cloud mining. The scheme will tell you that the money you invest is earning a steady return by mining cryptocurrency. Of course, the money that you invest does not go towards any sort of mining equipment, but just to sustain the scheme. There have been a couple of these in the past but perhaps one of the most well-known is the BitClub network. They ran for over 5 years and were able to take over $720 million from investors. There were many people who suspected them of being a Ponzi, but at the time it was quite hard to prove definitively that they were not investing the cash into mining equipment. Of course, the FBI had access to personal communication and eventually sank that ship. Another well-known crypto Ponzi MO is, of course, some sort of an investment scheme. Either they will claim that they can trade the crypto markets, or that they have some sort of trading bot that can generate regular returns. These are the kind of Ponzi schemes that are pretty easy to avoid. The reality is that any service that claims to have some amazing trading strategy or trading bot would not need your money. They could just make money with their trading strategies. It's just a ploy to get money from you in order to pay out earlier investors. There have been quite a few of these in the crypto space as well. One of the most recent examples is AmphieX. They managed to take in almost $60 million by the middle of this year. That was until they pulled an exit scam with the money. So, now that you have a vague idea of how crypto Ponzi schemes work, how do you avoid them? Well, the first and most important red flag that you can identify is if some scheme is guaranteeing you a certain amount of returns. Nothing is guaranteed, and these sorts of statements should have your bullshit alarm ringing. And I know what you're thinking. Your mate says that he got his regular stream of said income month after month, and he most likely did. This is the whole MO of a Ponzi scheme, to convince the investor that they actually work and hence want to commit more capital. Heck, the investor may even decide to refer friends and family. Oh, and while we're on this topic, you can usually use this as another Ponzi red flag. If the scheme offers you bonuses and perks to refer others and tiers those referral levels, you should steer clear. This is multi-level marketing and it is dubious at best. Nearly every crypto Ponzi scheme in the past used some sort of variant of this. You would have high-profile promoters who would be at the top of the pyramid and make money off of those below them. Oh, and don't be deceived by advertisements or publicity for a particular platform. BitConnect advertised on CoinDesk, AmphieX advertised on CoinMarketCap, and a whole host of other sites. Heck, they even took out billboards. Ponzi schemes are ad buyers just like any other sort of project. In fact, they're probably spending more on ads than legitimate businesses, as they need new victims. In many cases, advertising platforms, media sites, and influencers don't take the time to analyze the product being promoted. So yeah, think of a Ponzi scheme as an empty drum. Empty drums usually make the most sound. On to our next scam, and this one is also pretty damn common. The infamous giveaway scam. Quite simply, the scammer is trying to convince you to send them money in order for them to send back your money multiplied. Send us 1 ETH and we'll send you back 10 ETH. Now, despite how silly that sounds, these scams are pretty effective. They usually frame the promotion as a giveaway by a project, influencer, or famous person of some type. They use popular social media platforms in order to push these scams. Most of the time, this is through impersonation, although they do sometimes manage to hack accounts. For example, you'll no doubt have seen that high-profile Twitter hack earlier this year, where scammers managed to get into the accounts of Joe Biden, Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, etc. They tweeted the giveaway scam and were able to make almost $150,000. And if you think that was a lot of money, it's chump change compared to what some of the earlier iterations of these scams were able to generate. Before Twitter started clamping down on the bot manipulation tactics, scammers were making in excess of $1 million in a string of these giveaway promotions. The Elon Musk ones were my personal favorite. They were sometimes so convincing that large news organizations would fall for them. The Twitter giveaway scams have become less common though, as Twitter has cracked down on them. However, scammers have found fertile ground over here on YouTube. I'm sure you folks will no doubt have seen all of those live stream giveaways where they're featuring an interview of some sort, encouraging users to participate. Users are directed to a website that gives them instructions about where to send funds and how their funds will be multiplied. These have been quite effective, and more recently they've even started using YouTube ads to serve these videos. This is actually one of the reasons that I don't run ads on this channel. I don't want to take the risk of ads being served that could defraud users. More recently, it does appear as if YouTube has got a handle on some of these scams. However, they may crop up in different places, so it's essential that you're able to spot them and report them. They will try and cloak the message in a different way. They may use fake transaction evidence and time-sensitive pressure tactics. They will try to appeal to our emotional love for easy gains and quick promotions. However, you just have to take a step back and ask yourself this. Someone is offering to give me free money on the internet. Is this sensible? I'm sure we all know the answer to that question. The next scam that I need to tell you about is the phishing scam. Now, this is another attack vector that can be used in multiple different ways. The end goal of a phishing scam is to get you to hand over sensitive data so that a hacker can use said data to get access to your crypto. Phishing scams are also not unique to crypto and have also been used to get into people's online bank accounts, email accounts, and other password-protected accounts. The usual tactic with a crypto phishing scheme is for them to get you to visit a website that you think may be a legitimate service. They could be an exchange, an online wallet, or some other service that requires a password to access. The scammers will usually try and use a domain address that looks very close to the official address of the site that you're looking for. Either they will move a letter around, place a hash, alter the spelling, or use a different domain extension, .net, .info, etc., etc. The real sneaky ones will even do things like replacing a letter with a number. For example, here is ledger.com with an L, and here is ledger.com with the L replaced with a capital I. Pretty convincing, right? The real sophisticated hackers will use what are called homograph attacks. These basically use Unicode characters from non-Latin writing systems like Cyrillic or Greek. They can actually make a domain look exactly the same as the intended one. Here's an example of where a security researcher has been able to recreate the Apple domain using this random domain over here, which I've linked to below. You can actually check it out yourself by opening this domain in a browser like Firefox. It takes you to a domain that appears to be exactly the same as the Apple domain. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, these domains will usually host sites that look nearly identical to the site you're thinking of visiting. This is probably most likely a login panel for the service in question. You think that you're logging into your account, when in fact you're handing over your details to the scammer. Once they have your login details, they're able to access your accounts and, of course, do what they want with your coins. There are precautions you can take, of course. One of them is to set up two-factor authentication. Oh, and while we're on that point, make sure that you don't use an SMS-based authentication. This is because the fact that hackers are able to launch SIM swap attacks which allow them to overtake control of your phone. Use Google Authenticator or Authy. Anyways, phishing attacks can sometimes be much more successful as the attackers sometimes also buy ad space. There have been many occasions where they'll run AdWords with the fake domain and Google will serve that in the search results. Just use my simple rule of thumb. I never click on the ads, even if it's not crypto related. Call me jaded, but I prefer to focus on those results Google is not being paid to present. Now, there is an interesting extension to phishing, and that is private key phishing. If you're using a web wallet, then this is pretty easy for the scammer. However, if you have a software wallet, they're going to have to get you to download a malicious wallet. And that is a perfect segue into our next scam. Often the scammer will use a phishing technique in order to get you to download a malicious wallet. Once you've done so, they'll ask you to decrypt the wallet with the private key, which then, of course, means they have access to all your crypto. Perhaps the most devastating hack that I heard about this year was a poor bloke who lost 1,400 Bitcoin. Yep, that's over $18 million. It was basically because the user was fooled into downloading a faulty version of the wallet. Once a malware-infected wallet was installed, the hackers had remote control and stole the guy's Bitcoin. You can read more about the exploit below. Essentially, if you're using a wallet on your PC, make sure that you download it from the official site. Make sure that it's on the exact domain that applies to said wallet. Don't fall for those fake domain attacks. For example, a few weeks ago, I saw fake Exodus domains that were being presented as ads by Google. Obviously, these would have been malicious downloads. However, there is one more layer of security you can employ when downloading these wallet files, and that is what is called a checksum. Basically, this is where you can confirm the digital signatures the developer has uploaded with the software. This is for the more technical users, though, who are comfortable with the command line. I've linked to a guide below. You should also note that this is not restricted to wallets that you download from the official site. There have also been examples of fake wallets that have been uploaded onto centralized app stores. Case in point, you had the recent examples of a fake MetaMask wallet that was uploaded onto the Chrome browser store. The scammers will also produce fake reviews and comments to make the browser wallet look legit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Guy, I use a hardware wallet. I'm not susceptible to this hocus pocus. Well, that may not be entirely true. You see, if you hold a Ledger device, then there is a reasonable likelihood that you've heard about that Ledger database breach. Basically, hackers were able to get access to the data, emails, names, phone numbers, etc., of almost 200,000 Ledger users. I need to be clear here though, this was not a hack of the physical Ledger device, and there are no vulnerabilities in those. However, the information could have been used to launch a phishing attack on users of Ledger devices. The hackers sold the data on the dark web a few months ago. Fellow scammers bought the data, and it was only inevitable that we would start to see those targeted phishing attacks called spear phishing. Over the past 2 weeks, users have been getting emails and text messages telling them that they needed to either update their Ledger firmware or Ledger Live. Of course, they'll direct the user to a fraudulent domain similar to the ones that I described. Much like the case with the other wallet malware, once you've downloaded the fraudulent Ledger Live, it will exfiltrate your seed words and steal your crypto faster than you can say Satoshi. As I've told people before in both my Telegram channel and my weekly email, the only place you should be updating your Ledger is from within the app itself. Ledger will push all the updates directly to the app. Oh, and apart from this particular spear phishing attack, scammers have also used other tactics that I've mentioned for those new Ledger users. They've either uploaded fake Ledger apps into the respective app stores, or they've run AdWords on Ledger-related keywords. This is also not specific to Ledger, by the way. Scammers have also tried to phish other hardware devices such as Trezor and KeepKey. You are perhaps no doubt wondering whether hardware devices are still safe. Well, I happen to think so. They're much safer than many of the alternatives, and even in the case of the Ledger breach, this was nothing to do with the device. It was lax data security over at Ledger. Just as long as you're aware of the attempts to phish, then you're already 2 steps ahead of the hackers. On to the next scam, and this is another doozy. Rug pulls and exit scams are not restricted to Ponzi schemes, but they have been used with great effect through fraudulent ICOs. How these scams operate is not really that hard to understand. They try to convince a user to buy a cryptocurrency in an initial coin offering. Once they've done this, they hope that it builds momentum and sucks in more users. Eventually, once they've pulled in enough users, they'll cut and run, leaving everyone else holding the bag. The ICO variants of these were pretty damn pervasive during the 2017 ICO mania. There were a number of high-profile ICOs that managed to pull off daring exit scams. However, as the interest in ICOs has recently waned, so too have the scammers chosen a new target. Given the craze that we've seen in the DeFi space recently, scammers have migrated their tactics to these waters. They'll launch a new protocol, usually a fork of a well-known one. They'll then offer their own token as a yield farming incentive in order to convince people to supply their capital to the protocol. Once they've reached critical mass, the developers dump the token and escape with some of the locked capital. Now, being able to avoid these types of scams is also pretty simple. Don't get involved in the first place. There is a lot more junk out there than strong projects with good prospects. Even if an ICO or DeFi protocol is not a scam, there's also a strong chance that there is a smart contract bug, one that either leaves the protocol open to a hack or some other catastrophic failure. I am extremely selective when it comes to choosing the right kind of projects to invest in or the type of protocols to yield farm. I cover a lot of this in my comprehensive video on picking the right altcoin. You can watch that right over here. So yes, you should treat most of these hyped ICOs and projects as you would drugs. Just say no, kids. Time for the next scam. Some scams are pretty large in the sense that they target thousands of users. This is the case with those Ponzi schemes that I talked about earlier. However, sometimes scammers will give you personal attention. They will spend more time with you and try to earn your trust and hopefully get access to your wallet. The main MO of this scam is that there's some individual who can either help you trade, mine, or earn cryptocurrency in some way. There are a number of ways in which they'll try to get users to reach out to them. This will either be through email or a messaging app like WhatsApp or Telegram. For example, if you've been scouting some of the comments on crypto YouTube recently, you'll have noticed a flood of scam comments. These are usually inflated by bot likes and comments. The comments either talk about some sort of a trader, hacker, or cryptocurrency. They spread faster than COVID, and I can only imagine that this means they're being successful. It's also pretty hard to stop the scammers because all they're really doing is using an email or phone number to convince you to hand over your crypto. It's a modern-day variant on the Nigerian prince email scam. Those spam emails you'd get from a far-off prince offering to send you money that he wants to get out of the country. Similar to the case with the giveaway scam, you have to ask yourself if it makes sense. You are sending somebody money on the internet and they are offering to make more money for you. What could go wrong? That's as much of the scams I wanted to cover today, folks. The truth is that these are just really scratching the surface of all the scams out there. The best scammers are those that are constantly innovating their dastardly schemes. However, they all follow a similar MO. They're either appealing to your greed or your fear. They're expecting you to make a quick decision without thinking things through with a fresh set of eyes. The simple rule of thumb that I always use to cut through the crap is this: does it sound too good to be true? Well, if it does, then you can be pretty damn sure it is. When it comes to phishing and wallet scams, you just have to be extra careful when downloading wallet software and visiting particular sites. Forewarned is forearmed. And speaking of scammers, I've become aware that there are many of them out there that are trying to impersonate yours truly. Now, I know that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but it's not cool when they're trying to use my likeness to defraud you good people. So tell those scammers to piss off. And of course, stay safe, my dears. That's it, folks. My rundown of some of the crypto scams that you need to be very careful of. But of course, there may be many others out there. So I'm keen to hear now from you. Any other dangerous scams any of you want to highlight? Any questions you have for me? Feel free to fire them below. Also, if you folks found that helpful, then let me acquaint you with that like button down there. Turn that baby blue and don't forget to subscribe. I'll have another video for you real soon. Thank you for being a loyal member of my community. I want to give back to you lovely people to show my gratitude. Every week I share an email of my personal insights into the crypto market. This covers everything from hot coin picks to market analysis. And it's where I also share the breakdown of my personal portfolio. So, do you want to join me? Smash it! Just head on over to the description and you will find a link to my sign-up form. Then you just insert your email and hit submit. You will just need to confirm your email and hey presto, you are a member. I'm working on my next mailer as we speak.